For Cybercrime Radio, I'm Charlie Osborne. Joining me today is Amir Shamiri, Senior Sales Engineer at Mend.io. This episode is brought to you by Mend.io, whose mission it is to make application security frictionless for developers and scalable for security teams without compromise. To learn more about our sponsor, visit Mend.io. Amir, thank you for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you so much, Charlie, for having me.
In this episode, we're going to be discussing what is known as a Software Bill of Materials, or SBOM. So, Amir, a lot of organisations treat SBOMs as something they generate simply to satisfy regulations or customer requests. But in your view, what are teams missing when they see them purely as a compliance checkbox? And is there any value in regards to security?
Absolutely. So SBOMs obviously provide a lot of value when it comes to government compliance requirements or even customer requirements. But when we look into the actual visibility into the software supply chain, it's giving you a real insight into actually how the applications are being built. As we know, applications rely heavily on open source libraries, third-party components, often hundreds of thousands of dependencies. So without the SBOM visibility, security teams will really struggle to answer the questions of what they're using, where are they using them, and what kind of risk do they introduce.
And one of the challenges with SBOMs is that modern development moves incredibly fast. So why does manual creation struggle to keep up with today's development pipelines?
So obviously typical environments right now, they include CI/CD pipelines, automated builds, containers, frequent deployments. And obviously if you're doing your SBOMs in a manual approach right now, it's going to be problematic. They become outdated very, very quickly, and an outdated SBOM provides a little value to the organization. So the solution to that problem is to obviously automate the SBOM generation, right? Generate SBOMs automatically during the build process, within the CI/CD pipelines, and obviously within the release processes, because that way you're making sure that every single build produces an accurate component inventory, and an SBOM reflects actually what's being shipped.
And there was a phrase I heard the other day which I found quite interesting, which was SBOM visibility at dev speed. So I was wondering, for security teams that are trying to keep pace with developers, what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, so obviously that comes down to automation, right? As we alluded to, the actual generation of the SBOMs needs to be plugged into the way the developers are building the code. If we do this in a manual way, as we said, it becomes very, very outdated very, very quickly, right? And it becomes a useless sort of byproduct of all of the information we have there. So what we try and need to do is obviously build into the actual procedures that we have to make sure that it's being automated so that actual SBOMs that are being generated are always up to date. And that's something that you can do using tooling. You can do it within the pipelines, the processes, the releases, whatever you actually want to plug it into. You just need to make sure that it's up to date and looking at the actual code that's being shipped.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
Mend.io is the leading application security solution, helping organizations reduce application risk efficiently. Built for modern, AI-driven, and traditional development environments alike, Mend.io prioritizes what matters most so teams fix less, reduce risk faster, and deliver software with confidence. To learn more, visit www.mend.io.
And now, back to the podcast.
We know that, not all components and vulnerabilities carry the same levels of risk. So in relation to SBOMs, how should organisations think about prioritising what actually matters? And do SBOMs have a role to play in this?
They do. They obviously give you the great starting point of understanding what you have and where you have it, right? First and foremost, understanding what you don't know. So having that piece of telling you what the lay of the land is. You then need to go into the actual information and start to understand what those actual libraries and actual, let's say, vulnerabilities are doing to the organization. Are we using them? Using metrics such as reachability? If we are using them, where are we using them? And then we can start to prioritize based on usage and vulnerabilities. So if we have a critical and high and it's actually being used within the actual code, well, the risk obviously increases. But if we have a low severity finding that we're not actually using, well, technically we don't have a lot of findings that we need to worry about, right? So it comes down to the actual approach that you're taking with your application security program. And an SBOM is a starting point to understand what the lay of the land is, so you can have those discussions internally.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because something else I wanted to ask you was how SBOMs could become a practical driver for security decisions, especially when organisations are looking to move beyond static component lists.
Obviously, it becomes very, very important to understand sort of the lay of the land there when it comes to the static list, right? Applications are changing continuously, right? So if you have an SBOM that's been created in a point of time, it's not very useful. So by having SBOMs that are dynamic in their approach, it makes sure that we can actually keep up with the modern day application development that we have. As we know, cloud-native environments are changing as well on that aspect. So obviously we're releasing code much faster, containers are spinning up and disappearing, services are scaling. So the actual deployments are happening multiple times a day, right? So static SBOMs cannot keep up with that approach. we need to make sure that we are looking to create SBOMs that are dynamic in their approach there as well, Charlie.
And when organisations are just beginning to work more seriously with SBOMs, in your opinion, what's the first step towards sort of making them more genuinely useful than just another report or checkbox?
First and foremost, I would say if you're not using them at all, start using them, right? So you can understand what you're doing, even if it's not for the compliance piece or the governance piece. Just start to understand what the lay of the land is for your applications that you're creating, right? Go through them, understand what the actual manifest is giving you. The SBOM is there to be able to tell you exactly which passengers are within your actual application. Like a manifest for an aircraft, we need to know who's sitting in the seats. It's exactly the same when it comes to our applications. We need to know and understand what libraries we're using so we can understand how we can tackle security for them.
Amir, thank you for joining us today. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's all for today, Charlie. Obviously, SBOMs are super important. So if you don't understand what an SBOM is, I would recommend doing some research and understanding how they can benefit your organization. It obviously goes beyond governance and compliance as we saw. It also touches upon security as well. So yeah, start creating your SBOMs today so you can actually understand how your applications can impact you.
For Cybercrime Radio, I'm Charlie Osborne. Joining me today was Amir Shamiri, Senior Sales Engineer at Mend.io. This episode was brought to you by Mend.io, whose mission it is to make application security frictionless for developers and scalable for security teams without compromise. To learn more about our sponsor, visit Mend.io.